Roberta is a fashion style guru and ethical fashion activist, I guess you could say. Those are my own words. And founder of both Roberta Style Lee and the Ethical Brand Directory. Hi, Roberta. Hey,
hello, ladies. Hi.
Fabulous, I have to say.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, definitely.
Brilliant.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, welcome, Roberta. It's absolutely lovely to have you here. I was just explaining to everyone who's watching that the Ethical Brand Directory was something that you started out of a frustration of searching for stylish brands that are both ethical and sustainable in order to recommend to your customers.
Yes.
And that's something, that I definitely feel as well. Starting zero waste goods, there's this huge sense of where do I go, where do I shop, and the Ethical Brand Directory was one of your answers to that question for sure.
Indeed.
I've also got a little bit more to share about you. So you were also the stylist for the Fashion for Conservation Hope Gala in 2018, which in fact featured Sir David Attenborough, who I believe is birthday today, I think.
I'm not 100% sure actually. I may be overshadowed by the bank holiday. Poor David, if it is. But no, I think it's on our content calendar. It's coming up if it's not today.
It's coming. Did you get to meet him when you were at that gala?
Sadly, do you know what? No, I had to peer down at him from the raft of the fashion show, looking down at Sir David, and it was a fabulous opportunity. And I think all of us that got involved were like, okay, great, we're going to get to meet David Attenborough. But unfortunately, his PR company had said, sorry, no meet and greets. He's going onto the stage, and then he's off. We were like, oh, but still, nonetheless, great to be part of an event where Sir David Attenborough was the guest of honour, and I could see him and hear him speak, but I mean, it really was from a sort of top of the head down situation.
Oh my goodness. So very important question for you. Is his voice as good or better even in person than it is over the TV?
Mesmerizing. You could just actually close your eyes and listen to Sir David Attenborough speak. I mean, he obviously is a bit of a legend, and I think that plays to how much we love him. But no, his voice is incredible, and it transcends and it fills the room. And it was deadly silent in there. Like every single person at every table, there wasn't like a glass clinking or anything. Everyone was just listening to his every word.
One of the only people who can quiet a busy room.
Yeah, I think he's earned it though. He's earned that right. He's earned that right. He's.
And you're right. It is his birthday today.
It is. Oh well, happy birthday, Sir David Attenborough.
Sir David Attenborough, exactly. Well, I'm sure he's celebrating in style somewhere. But we're very excited to have Roberta here. David Attenborough, or Sir David Attenborough, he's not the only famous or influential individual that you've rubbed shoulders with, certainly. In fact, you're also featured on ITV last year, as well as the BBC on New Year's Day for 2020, which is a great way to kick off. What was that about?
ITV last year was around some of the latest research that had come out from Bernardo's around our relationship with clothing. Given I'm a sustainable stylist and I talk a lot around the psychology of our relationship with clothes and things like that, they brought me in to come in and talk a little bit more around how we can all be more sustainable and think a little bit more green when it comes to our style choices. And a lot of that information was around how to leverage and maintain what you've already got instead of rushing out and buying something new. And then, yes, on New Year's Day, which was quite nice because it got me out of bed because I was poorly actually for all of Christmas. Oh, no. And I know, it's okay. But yes, that was fantastic. I went to the studio and I managed to also have a little bit of influence over what they published that day. So I suggested I brought in some of the ethical brands that I act as an ambassador for and actually showcase them on the television, which was nice because they had no plans for me to do that, but I kind of bought a bunch of things in and managed to get these wonderful brands some publicity and share their incredible stories. So yeah, that one was very much around the sustainability sort of trending in the fashion space and what does that mean, and I gave a few examples.
That's brilliant. And I think it makes such a difference to really know the ins and outs of the industry in order to be able to say, that is ethical, because there's so much involved in that decision making, which I think is certainly remarkable and is a test to the expertise that you've built up over the years, for sure.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm just wondering, is there anything else that you're working on at the moment, like looking forward into 2020 and beyond? Is there any exciting things that you want to share with anyone today?
Oh gosh, yes. So there's never a dull moment in Roberta Style Lee or ethical brand directory land. We're constantly working on new ideas and initiatives. I think one of the most exciting things is for Fashion Revolution Week, we did, similar to yourself, we did a 7-day online summit for the whole of Fashion Revolution Week. And Ethical Brand Directory managed to flip things around and bring our e-commerce capability forward from 2021 and get that ready in beta for launch. So we've now got a very small selection of brands that have been handpicked by myself. So stylist approved pieces for a sustainable wardrobe available so that you don't have to go to lots of different websites in order to shop. The idea is we are building that out so that somebody that wants to actually get started with a sustainable wardrobe and is at that point where they're beyond repair and can't find what they need from pre-loved, then you can actually go there and actually get several pieces to kickstart your sustainable wardrobe. So that was like a rather kind of ambitious goal that we managed to deliver on. What else is going on? Oh gosh, Ethical Brand Directory just we got really exciting news yesterday. We've been accepted onto London and Partners Business Accelerator Growth Program, which means the next 3 months will be focused on scaling impact and be able to help more small independent brands, what we love doing, on a much larger scale. So that was a huge win, and I have to thank my team member Roshni, who did the application. She managed to get us in, and we start work on scaling and growing in June.
Congratulations.
Thanks. It's been a lot of work to get where we are today, and I think a lot of people don't realize that I've actually ran Ethical Brand Directory as a non-profit. I don't take any salary or wages, and it's actually been all my work at Roberta Style Lee that's paid for it. So it will be a nice change for us to flip that and move out of the non-profit space and actually turn it more into a social enterprise where we can actually have some commercial value to it.
And Roberta, just quickly, where can people find the link for your sustainable wardrobe? Can I pop it?
Oh yes, yeah. So I'm sorry. Another thing as well on my big list of things that I'm doing. Always forget to mention myself and my own things. Always steaming out there with Ethical Brand Directory. So over at Roberta Style Lee, I made the decision to relaunch my online styling course. So teaching people how to create a wardrobe that is reflective of their own personal values. And a lot of people just really don't know how to get started with a sustainable wardrobe, because let's face it, nobody teaches us how to shop or dress or style ourselves. So we go through life winging it, and then some of us kind of get it sort of okay, and some of us maybe don't. And this course is really designed to help people kind of start back at the beginning and think about who they are, what they want to wear, and how to express what's important to them through the clothing choices that they have in their wardrobe. So that one is, the link I believe is on the booth, Mel.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, brilliant.
Also just dropped in the chat by Dana.
Oh, that's Dana, my fantastic assistant. She's wonderful. She's always on it. She's actually been helping me restructure and organize myself to get the course live. So enrollment starts now, but the course goes live on the 2nd of July. I think I'm correct, Dana. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yes, very exciting, and can't wait to welcome lots of new people to the world of creating a sustainable wardrobe.
Which is absolutely fantastic. And if you do want to know more about that, we can take questions actually in the booth afterwards. So after we're done with the panel, Roberta will be hosting her own session called Wear Your Values, and that's where she'll be going into a bit more of an introduction to the course, as well as potentially answering some of your own personal styling questions, which is excellent.
I will.
That's that. Anyway, I've talked way too much. It's time to work on our other panelists. We have 4 amazing people coming next to speak with you. We have Emma from Socko, who's going to join us on stage. I will just welcome Emma. We also have
Festival.
Amazing.
Festival vibes.
So calm.
It's a good entrance.
I feel like we could do that again. I'm just going to have that on replay. I'd also love to welcome Rachel to the stage. Rachel is from
Hiya.
Excellent, that was smooth. And we also have Dan from Sustainable Man, and he is also a business partner at the Ethical Brand Directory. And we just need Charlotte. So Charlotte, if you're around, will you come and join us? Excellent. Okay, Christina, we might need to pop off one of us.
Charlotte is here. Charlotte, you need to pick your backstage pass. You need to come backstage.
I think we might.
But I think I need to leave to let Charlotte in. So I will leave you.
Bye.
I will see you later.
No, that's absolutely fine. Pop-in can be a little new to some of us, so sometimes it lets us have 6 people, sometimes it doesn't. But Rachel, it's lovely to see you. I'm absolutely loving the clothes that you've all got hung up in the background as well.
Ooh, fab.
Yeah. Was that the other options for today?
Yeah, I've always got a vintage option ready to go.
Well, I'm actually so glad that we're talking about this, because I had an absolute nightmare, and I don't know if, Roberta, this will be in your course. I was like, what do I wear to go online? I have no idea. Like, would it be up to here, or what colour is best? So yeah, but Roberta, or I'll hand over to you whilst I work on helping Dan get onto the stage.
Perfect.
Charlotte. So yeah, I'm going to be off camera for a little bit, and I'll hand over to you.
Brilliant. Right, well, thank you all so much for tuning in and, you know, being part of this wonderful event. I'm absolutely delighted to be sponsoring the fashion segment, because I think, you know, the big green lock-in sort of represents everything about what we need in the fashion industry. It's about less waste and being more mindful. So absolutely delighted to have these wonderful panelists with me that are all experts and have insights in their particular fields, and I think it's going to be a really interesting panel discussion. So I don't know what's happening with Shah right now, but I think the best thing for us to do is kind of just get started with introductions. So I thought it'd be really lovely if you could all, and I'll nominate you so that you don't talk over one another, but for you to just give yourself a very quick introduction to our audience, because they might not know who you are and what you do. So let's get started, shall we? Emma, would you like to go first?
I would love to go first. Hi, everyone. I'm Emma. I'm the founder of Socko, which is a sustainable sock brand. We launched at the end of 2018, and all of our socks are made in the UK using offcuts from mills around the UK. So yarn that would otherwise be thrown out because it's reached the end of its purpose on a longer production run, or it's been rejected because of slight streaking, but is still perfectly usable, beautiful yarn. I source, repurpose, and they are then made in the UK into unisex socks. I have a pair here.
Oh, great. We have some you made earlier.
Yeah. Oh, fab. Each pair comes with a little swatch of yarn and a darning needle, and we're all about slow fashion, of course, and making your clothes last longer. So I also teach darning workshops. I teach people how to mend their clothing, and that's a big part of Socko's mission.
Lovely. Thank you, Emma.
Thanks.
And let's introduce the lovely Rachel.
Hi, lovelies, and Emma, love your socks, got some.
Oh, thanks, Rachel. Thank you.
So I'm a designer and design manager in the industry. I've been doing that for over 22 years. And yeah, recently, probably over the last sort of 4 to 5 years, actually, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirts. I'm seeing how it is in the factories. Couldn't be with that anymore. So I started doing events, just sharing with people what they could do right in this moment to be more sustainable. But now I'm starting my own consultancy, bringing together all of my sustainability knowledge and my background experience in the supply chain to create Circular Earth, that is a consultancy.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you all again for being here. And so let's pass over to Dan. Dan, please introduce yourself.
Hello, beautiful ladies. How are you? Well, my name is Dan Pontarlier. I'm from Paris, even though I'm Spanish, and I'm a consultant for sustainability, mostly for the fashion and hospitality industries. I'm a teacher in college too, and I'm a partner of a lovely lady here today on the ethical brand directory, and I'm managing the digital strategy for them.
Well, thank you very much, Dan, for being here. I think we're probably having a few technical issues with Shah coming on board. So I'm going to just give you a quick heads up of who Shah is. And Shah, when she arrives, we'll give her the opportunity to do a quick intro. But Charlotte Bingham Wallis, she is the co-founder of a wonderful brand called From Belo that basically takes things that are destined for landfill, such as seat belts and the offcuts from the fashion industry, and they basically reinvent these things that could be considered trash into beautiful handbags and accessories. So I'm sure Shah will be with us shortly, but I am also conscious that we don't have a lot of time for our panel, so I'd really love to get going, and I'll just switch the order of the questions around so that we can accommodate Shah when she comes in. So first of all, I know that we've probably got a chat going on, and I'm not sure whether you can see it as a speaker, but what I think is also really cool is if you do want to just put your social media handles in there so that anybody that's watching, if they like one of your comments, they can very quickly tweet to you or something, and you can get visibility of that. Don't click on anything too much in the backstage, because I have no idea what happens if you come out of backstage. I think you go into the main room, but it is there as an option. Otherwise, maybe the team could put people's Twitter handles maybe at least into the chat. Brilliant. Okay, so look, this panel is about the future of fashion. And I've deliberately picked everybody on this panel because I think that you all offer a really great point of view and you have interesting experience. So I'm going to, I can see everybody's busy typing down in there. So actually, Rachel, if you finished in the chat, I'm going to kick things off with a question to you, darling. You have got over 20 years experience seeing firsthand what goes on in the fashion industry, and also I know Rachel personally, so I know quite a lot about her experience. So Rachel has been there, she's been in these chains, fast fashion chains, she's been around brands that produce things in a way that perhaps are not aligned to her, well, they're definitely not aligned to her values today, but she's been there, she knows how it works. She's seen what it's like on site, in the inside of the factory floor. And so she has a great deal of knowledge and expertise to share with us. So Rachel, having had so much experience, and you really do, what do you think is going to happen to the fashion industry post-COVID-19?
Right, yes. It's a sobering thing, right? What we're seeing right now. And I think what we'll see at first is, unfortunately, many regular businesses kind of going out of business, and that's a knock-on effect to designers, to teams, to all the teams that are behind making all the clothes that we see in the stores. No one just waves a magic wand and it appears. There's many teams and there's many hands behind it, and that has a knock-on effect to the supply chain in many different countries. But I think that will then give a new platform to really reevaluate what we're doing in fashion, and spur on innovation, ideas, and sort of a new paradigm of what different brands can achieve. And a lot of the times, in many ways, the industry has never really innovated apart from kind of having to accumulate things for GDP. Essentially, it's always been about more. And so now it really brings a new mindset to this whole situation. So
brilliant. Yeah. And I don't know if anybody else has got anything to add. Oh, there's Shah.
Hi. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was having lots of technical issues.
Don't worry. I did a very brief introduction for you, and then we've already kick-started. So when it's your question, Shah, you can give your introduction so everybody can hear your own personal account of who you are and what you do. I did a quick one for you.
You did an amazing job. Thank you so much, Roberta.
Well, it's lovely to have you here, Shah. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know whether you caught the first question, but I just asked Rachel what her thoughts were with all of her years experience in the industry about what's going to happen to the post COVID-19. And so I just extended out the question to just get a quick opinion from anybody else in the room before I move on to the next question, which is actually for you, Shah. So
amazing. Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. So did anybody else have anything to add about post COVID-19?
Yeah, I've got a couple of thoughts in terms of what I think will happen in the world of consumer behaviour, for sure. And that's really around shopping local. And I think that that's something that has happened out of necessity, but will continue to be front of mind for a lot of people. So even though, of course, people have ordered online, I think there is an awareness of local community and like Rachel says, around the fact that it does affect absolutely everyone in the supply chain. So just more of an awareness of the level of work that goes into stocking shelves all the way through to sewing a seam, as you say. So I think it's that shopping local thing that we'll take forward after this.
I actually agree. Yeah, I think I've seen that's definitely been something that most people I've spoken to, just not in fashion, but consumption in general, shopping local has become a new priority. And I think that's an interesting direction for the industry to be exploring. Okay, Shah, did you have something to add? You were making some faces, so I wanted to give you the opportunity.
I was just agreeing. I was like, yeah, definitely. I'm on the same page. I think that people are going to be supporting a lot more smaller businesses. I think we've seen from this event that there's been these big establishments that you would imagine would have like the finance to be able to support their staff, to be able to pay their workers, have actually initially made a massive impact, in terms of cutting the wages of their workers out in Bangladesh, like all these really faraway places. And in this moment, maybe we have an ability to actually relate to these people a lot more, because there's a lot of people whose work is currently in jeopardy, currently in threat. And I think that even those who aren't necessarily sustainable or feel ethically driven when they purchase will suddenly they're able to relate to these people in a lot more way rather than thinking that they're far away. So I think that looking at what a business and how they support their team and how they integrate what they're doing with their finance with their team and how they're supporting through this. I think for me personally, I found beforehand was really important, but now I see a lot more people talking about this and their awareness is growing. So that's what I hope is going to be a bit more of awareness.
Absolutely. I think the whole one of the key things that's coming through, and something that unites us all as human beings, is that we have a common understanding of the situation, and compassion is definitely something that we're all in the same boat, essentially. Like, we're all experiencing things for the first time globally as a human beings, different extents, of course, but we're all, there's a definite opportunity for compassion to really lead here. Right, ladies and gent, so sorry, Dan. I've just cast my eye on the time, so I realise I need to keep the pace going with the questions so that all of our audience can actually get to hear everybody speak and share their expertise. So I need to keep us on track. So I'm going to, Shah, would you like to give a very quick introduction of who you are, what you do, and then I'm going to ask you the question that I've got lined up.
Okay, so I'm Shah, or Charlotte. I'm one of the co-founders of From Belo, which is a accessories company that is whole belief is set around kindness. So being kind to our supply chain, being kind to the planet, and reinvesting where we take from. So we create bags out of waste, which I know Roberta kindly spoke about us before. So we work with things like seat belts, car seats, plastic bottles, excess fabric from the fashion industry. And we refurbish them as part of a big social project out in Brazil to help work with artisans who couldn't compete with places like China in the fashion industry. So they're very talented people, but they lost their work and got thrown into poverty. So we work with them to be able to supply them with, decent wages, and then and also, work opportunities. And then we reinvest back into that community, not only by recycling materials from around there, but we also donate meals to the homeless in need. So it's a big social project as well as environmental project.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for sharing, Shah. I'm going to ask you now as a handbag designer, and I've actually got questions that are very targeted for each of you, just in the interest of trying to get as much value, squeeze as much knowledge out of all of you, of our experts. I might have some questions that are just targeted at you as individuals. So Shah, you're a handbag designer. You use materials that are otherwise destined for landfill. So what opportunities do you see for brands to be more sustainable?
There are so many opportunities. You don't have to go and rummage around in a car mechanics like we do, getting seat belts and refurbishing them. I think, sustainability isn't defined to just what materials you use. For us, it's all about creating a sustainable business that works with, teams and thinks about the ethical side of things as well. So I think as a brand, getting to know your supply chain is really important, and building relationships with them and making sure that everything that is, that what you're being told is happening. So, if you aren't ready to go and produce a product, out of sustainable materials or upcycled materials, that's one way to look at how you can be sustainable on step one. Because it can be quite overwhelming when you start this project, and you don't have to be perfect as a brand, but I think if you've got goals to work towards to help improve what you're doing, I think that's the first place to start. I think looking at materials as well, so you don't have to, I really believe in upcycling and using what already exists. I think it's such a beautiful thing. And I don't know if you've heard of Ellen MacArthur and the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, but, even looking at the costs, like we spend, as a global entity, so much money on producing plastic, and then we use it once and then it gets thrown away, whereas there's this opportunity to use this material and reuse it, repurpose it. So I think that's one thing, so upcycling. But if it works for your brand and you're looking at things like the longevity of materials, and you're wanting to go more like the organic route, then I think there's so many different ways. I don't think you can just structure it into one. It's what you believe in. And for us, we really believe in taking what already exists and repurposing it and turning it into something new. But I think there's lots of different ways that you can start to being sustainable as a brand and then progress it on further. For us, our business model is quite complicated. We started in Brazil because we wanted to be a social impact company. And on that journey, when I went and retrained as a bag designer, that's when I discovered that there was so much waste. And personally, that's like how our journey began, using waste. So I think it really can, being sustainable is such a broad topic. So as a brand, I think it's finding what you believe in for sustainability, starting off it as a small step, and then you can progress as things go on. So sorry, that's a bit of a waffly answer.
No, amazing advice, amazing advice, Shah. And I think what I took from that was define what sustainability means to you. Start small. You don't have to tick all the boxes, and it's a journey, not a final destination. So
yeah, you said that so much better than I did, Roberta.
Well, look, great advice. Thank you so much, Shah. And so we've got more advice to come as well. And I want to shift the next question to Dan. And also the fashion industry. And I'm just going to ask, because I can hear a lot of interference from somebody's microphone. If you're not speaking, would you mind muting to see if that helps? I don't know whether it's actually mine. I hope not. Oh no, it's better. So it's somebody who had theirs on. Perfect. So Dan,
hello.
Hello, darling. Nice to see you. I'm good. Dan, look, we're so many women in the fashion industry, and there's such a female perspective all the time on everything we do. Yes. So that's why I thought it was really interesting to have you. There aren't that many guys out there promoting sustainable fashion, and also, you No, you are one of a kind, almost. There's no one like Dan, I have to say. But in terms of your beliefs in sustainability, I think it's really interesting to look at what consumers are interested in. And, you know, you're sort of considered an influencer in the social media landscape. Like, what kind of brand, what is it about brands that appeal to you and make you want to wear them, support them, and talk about them on your channels and get other people to kind of believe in them as well?
Well, first of all, I agree with everything that they've said till this moment, because one of the main things that I'm attracted to is quality, circularity, durability, and to create something from waste. So what Emma is doing, for example, and what Tara does also in from Belo, it's amazing. And I like to also promote this kind of brands, because actually, I mean, the period in time where we were using organic cotton has gone far beyond. It's not time for doing that anymore. It's time for trying to use the resources and the things that we already have in land, not to try to move them into, you know, so they don't become already waste. Another thing, it's besides upcycling or brands that do upcycling, another thing that I'm really attracted to is genderless fashion, or actually new shapes used in the production of menswear. Unfortunately, where we can find for men, it's quite, you know, inside of the box and limited, and I don't like that at all. So that's the reason why I work personally with my seamstress, so she's able to upgrade the things that I buy or that I get. And yeah, mainly is that. I mean, I cannot speak for every man in the world, because obviously it's going to be different, but I can speak for a huge part of the gay men in the world. So I can tell you already this, that we are in love with lines, flowy shapes, and chains and stuff like this. And another thing that we need to take into consideration is IoT. Nobody's talking about IoT, and it's really interesting nowadays. We need to try to mix that with the development of garments. I mean, we need to apply that, because we know that actually when we try to apply sustainability, I'm a consultant, so I know from other industries that I'm working with, when we try to apply sustainability, not only in operations, but also in the products, we are able to boost the impact that sustainability has, or the impact that our actions have. So I think that's something also important, and that's something that attracts me from, I mean, I feel attracted to brands that are trying to do something extraordinary. Behind upcycling is the minimum that they can do nowadays.
So what would you like to see more of, Dan? So, you know, we see so many new brands emerging. I see a lot of the same type of brands just showing up, doing the same thing. And part of me really is excited about that, because it's great to see small independent brands entering the space. Also, I have a level of frustration that it's another brand doing another thing, which is already being done. And I'm like, well, how many t-shirt companies do we need, like, that producing organic t-shirts? So then as a stylist, I'm sort of, I find the challenge with, actually most people do want the basics, and they're willing to pay more for the basics, and they don't want unusual, outlandish designs. They want good quality, well-tailored pieces, because actually, when you think of from the styling angle, if you have things that are too elaborate, it's really hard to mix and match in your wardrobe.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. So because you've already got your own kind of personal style going.
Canva in my skin.
So sometimes it is just about actually the fundamentals and just being, I think, clever and resourceful, and coming up with a product offering which isn't too outlandish, but actually delivers and suits the needs. It has to be commercial. I think that's my challenge with a lot of brands in the ethical and sustainable space. They try to be too quirky, which is great because they have an identity, but only a very small number of the population go for quirky. And if we want to see big global changes around sustainability in the fashion industry, we have to deliver what people want and what they want to wear. Not what we want.
Absolutely.
You know?
That's up on your line. So
that was my little rant.
So what I was going to say is, like, I'm actually kind of tired of seeing the same over and over. But what I think is that sustainable fashion brands, they focus on the sustainable fashion consumer, and they don't focus on the consumer in general. So something that they have to do is try to adapt to the demands that the general consumer has, so we are able to try to attract to our business model or to our mindset to the customers. I mean, if we are doing the same, then other sustainable fashion brands, we are not doing anything different. And maybe we are not trying to arrive to that market share. Otherwise, if we are, for example, using technologies, I know that I'm repeating myself with this, but if we use technologies, both not just in production, but including this IoT in the clothing. I mean, we've seen Tencel, Lyocell, or however you call it. That's awesome, and generating all these new materials. So they have less impact. It's great. But as I said before, technologies can actually boost the positive impact of sustainability. And also when we add these kind of things inside of the clothing, sustainable brands start to relay actually on IoT, we don't only have a positive impact in the environment and society, but also we will be able to increase the quality of life of consumers. Like, I mean, call me geek if you want, but I like to turn the light on and off from my phone. Why? Because I know that I can do it. And for me, it's easier than to go and find that, and sometimes people, for being lazy, they don't step up from the sofa, just turn off the light. I know we have devices, but that's just an example. This is an example with technology, but it can be applied to fashion also.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing, Dan. And now over to Emma. My question for you, Emma, darling, is you're a brand that promotes repairs, which is wonderful. And I love your story is so easy to remember, so wonderfully simple. You use items that would be otherwise destined for landfill. You create beautiful items, and then you teach people how to maintain them by, doing training and giving a needle and thread. I mean, I just love that concept. It's brilliant. Do you think, as a brand that's in your DNA, do you think that other fashion brands have a responsibility with post-consumer care? Because very often what happens is that responsibility is passed on to the consumer. It's like down to you, once you've bought it, once the sale, like the transaction is done, you're like, right, great, next transaction, new customer, and I just wonder what your thoughts are with that model. And do you see an opportunity, or do you feel that there needs to be more of a pressure on brands to take responsibility after the initial sale?
I absolutely do, Roberta. There's a scary statistic around the care and aftercare of clothes, and actually the largest carbon emissions taking place after the sale has happened. So it's actually in the hands of the consumer. So it's actually, there's a big education piece to be done, but at the same time, it's not okay for brands to sort of pass the buck and say, well, it's on their heads to then make sure that that's being done properly, because I think we do need to be here with the solution, and right at the very earliest design stage, think about the circularity of that product and think about how we can take what we've made and bring it back to ground. So that's been something that I'm very interested in from a sock perspective, to kind of get into the nitty gritty of it. Each pair of socks has a small nylon component, which is needed for durability, because to Dan's point, you need a durable product. If you were to make something that's 100% cotton, it's nice to have on the label, but actually in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to last. Component. I now use Econil, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, Econil, and that's made using recycled fishing nets. So I'm very excited about having that as a recycled input rather than a virgin fibre. But to come back to your point, I think it really does come down to not only doing the education piece, because there's a much wider message that needs to go out of this echo chamber, which is still a very positive place to be, of kind of talking to people who really already kind of get it. I'm actually writing a book at the moment on how to quit fast fashion, and it's very accessible. It's 100 points on sort of things that you can do and ways in which you can just, it's not a kind of finger wagging exercise of sort of saying that what you're doing is wrong. And I've never taken that approach either personally or with Socko. I don't think there's any benefit to be had in telling people that what they're doing is the wrong thing and what you're doing is right, because like we will discuss that there are so many nuances to sustainability, and that actually just trying to do the best that you can and really focusing in on one specific area makes it a lot easier for people to understand and to do right, than if you're kind of broad brush trying to do everything perfectly. So yeah, I think it does come down to the brands to do things that not only educate but also will take back and recycle the items that they've made in the first place.
Brilliant. And do you think that the government legislation needs to play a hand in that? Because if it's an option, I don't think a lot of brands will sign up, and certainly not by 2030. We have the Sustainable Development Goals. They've been around since 2015. We are in 2020, and so few brands have actually adopted them and have them embedded into their business because it's optional. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it does have to go up to government to actually, I think there's, it may be in, I'm going to get the country wrong, where if you buy a washing machine, for example, you actually buy the washing machine and you pay for its disposal at the time at which you purchase it, which is just an interesting way of bringing that that taxation through. I'm not saying that it should always be paid by the customer, but it certainly does an awareness job. Right. What were you going to say, Dan?
Dan's in France, so he's saying,
Dan's in France.
Yeah.
Okay, really?
That's
in
what
France?
we do here in France, yeah, sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, brilliant.
Yeah, when you have to buy something, there is an eco tax that it's applied there for the recycling afterwards. So you pay in advance for that. And that's
I think that's a really sensible approach.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
And it democratizes it as well in a way that it's not a kind of nice to have. It's something that everyone needs to be made aware of, and can incrementally make a difference to the planet. So I think it's a great thing.
Brilliant. God, everybody's sharing really great opinions and a great perspective. I think it's getting to that point now where I can see everybody's getting all like charged up and energized because of their point of view. So question to everybody, and I appreciate we're running out of time, so I'm gonna have to get everybody to give their quick shotgun responses to this. So biggest challenges and opportunities for fashion brands post COVID-19. Who would like to go first? I'm going to pick Rachel.
Myself. So a challenge is transforming the whole system in the correct way. And I'm going to keep it short. Transparency, greenwashing, I think continue to be a thing, especially why some brands are transforming. The cost of it, and as we touched upon earlier on, government policy not being in line with what we need to have. Opportunities is the innovation. I'll probably go into that later, but to transform towards a new economy and a new way of life. So that's me.
Perfect. Thank you. Snappy, Rachel. Love it. Emma, what are your thoughts? Opportunities and challenges?
I think there's a big opportunity for skill sharing. So I think there's a lot that we can learn from one another, and that goes across industries, and I think we need to think really laterally about it. Learning from, like Dan was saying, the Internet of Things, or whether it's from the automotive industry, or I don't think the time has come to actually broaden our thinking beyond the fashion industry. And similarly, I think that's something that COVID has kind of opened up. I'm not calling it a positive, but it's something that is an opportunity going forward.
Perfect. Dan, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Sorry. As we said before already, that the biggest challenge is the survival of the smallest brands that we know nowadays. But as opportunity, something that I see is that customers nowadays are starting to be more conscious, especially after this pandemic crisis. And there has been actually, I was reading the other day, I don't remember where, but I read that there was an increase of 4,500% on the search of how to live a sustainable lifestyle in Google during this 90 past days. So this is something that actually is telling you that customers or people in general is day after day more interested in healthy habits, well-being, and sustainability in general. That makes that actually sustainable fashion brands, they need to use marketing now more than ever, and they're going to have a better return on investment due to the fact that people is more open to the way of to accepting these new things. Many sustainable fashion brands, they think that marketing, unfortunately, like it or not, we are living in a capitalist system. So marketing is part of it. The problem is that if you're not into it, you're totally out. So you're not going to be able to reach people if you directly put out something just due to the fact that it belongs to a system that you don't agree with. You take profit of that in order to try to sell your brand and in order to try to put it out in everybody's head. So try to increase the visibility. And that's the opportunity that I'm seeing right now, actually.
Brilliant. I would agree. I think one of the first areas in business whenever there is downturns in the economy, first place that gets cut is PR and marketing. Always, like those members of the team, if you've ever worked corporate and you've ever been through any of these experience, it's always the marketing department that gets laid off first. And actually marketing during this time is the lifeblood for your brand, because it's out there getting your story known. And when the dust settles, people are going to remember those powerful, positive stories and go back to the brands that they remember when they're in a position to be able to invest. So I agree with you, Dan. Wonderful point. But I want to move on to Shah now and ask Shah what her opinion is in terms of opportunities and challenges.
So obviously we're going to have a challenge, in terms of recession and whether people have money to invest and make these investments. But I'm actually feeling quite positive in terms of sustainability. I feel that people are going to be looking for something with impact and looking for brands that have got making a change. So I think measuring your impact and knowing, the whole cycle of your products is really, really important, because I think we've been highlighted, throughout this, terrible experience. Like the silver lining is that people have, first of all, they've had an awareness of, people's supply chains, how, things are created, whether it's from a piece of clothing to an iPhone to, anything in the industry. I think it's also given us, that opportunity to see how us as an industry, people creating products has a massive impact on the environment, and how when we've stopped everything, actually the environment is, the animals, the plants and the ocean is recovering. So in terms of that silver lining, I want to see, there's already been questions to the British government. There's been other governments that are taking the lead around the world about looking at how business and how we can get out of, COVID-19 in a more green way. So I think there's an opportunity for businesses, if you're not there already, to look at how can you make yourself more green. Maybe it's going to be a challenge right now, to think of it, but you've got this opportunity to sit down and look at the effect of your product or your effect on your service, and how can you make it better? Because I really believe people are going to be looking at the effect, of how the impact is in the future. Government-wise, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure, and I'm hoping from the consumer there's going to be a lot more pressure as well.
Brilliant, very, very valid points. I agree. I think we've all seen the good news that's coming out, because we are not hammering our resources in the planet at the moment. So I think that's incredibly motivating for us to see what we can maintain from this weird, unusual situation of lockdown. But there are some fantastic benefits that we're seeing, that the planet is recovering, and it's just had like a few months to have a bit of a break, and wow, incredible. I've got one last question, and I really want to get this one in, because I think we had 45 minutes on the panel, so this is gonna have to be a super quick one, because I want everybody to share. I keep saying this. I probably tried to squeeze too many questions in, but I wanted to get everybody's expertise shared. Right, question to everybody is future of fashion. So we do a quick round robin, like one sentence, 3 words, something really short. Where do you want to see the fashion industry 5 years from now? Rachel, go.
Circular and systemic.
Oh, I like it. Emma.
Well, Rachel stole my circular, but that's fine, because that just hammers home how important it is. Circular and conscious. So very much kind of embracing conscious consumerism.
Amazing. Dan?
Well, I'm not English, so I'm going to try ahead with this term. I don't know if the word exists, but circular and techie.
Yeah.
Circular and techie. Yeah. We get that. We get that. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And Shah, what about you?
I want to see the fashion industry being circular. There's a bit of a theme there, but also kind. I want people to be treated well throughout the whole supply chain. You know, I don't think that anyone should be hurt or in pain because of fashion.
I love that. And just to add, one of my key words that I would like to see in the fashion industry as a consumer and somebody that's working with lots of brands is I want transparency to be just normality. I think that there's a lack of transparency and that inhibits us from making the correct choices and shopping in line with our values. So quick round robin again. Everybody, could we give all of our viewers a piece of advice, whether they're a consumer or a brand? Like, what can they do to help make this vision a reality? Let's go with Rachel.
A consumer or a brand?
Yeah, whether they're a consumer or a brand, what can they do to help make the vision a reality? We've spoken about circularity, transparency, kindness, technology. What can they do?
Collaboration.
Oh, love it. Perfect. Emma, what about you?
Ask lots of questions. So whether you're a consumer or a brand, get to the heart of your supply chain or understand the origin of where things are coming from.
Love it. So that's definitely in line with Fashion Revolution's slogan, asking those questions. Love it. Thank you, Emma. A quick change, Shah, quick one from you. What are your thoughts?
So I want to see people be more innovative, whether they're at home and, you know, learning how to dance. I think that's like being innovative with yourself. And for brands, I want you to think outside the box and see how you can do things differently, because that's really exciting.
Brilliant. Yeah. So innovation and getting crafty, really, at home, isn't it? So perfect. Dan, what about you?
Muted. Can you hear me now?
Perfectly.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Well, for me, it's the same. It's being crafty, because one of the main things that you can do is upcycling. You have, I'm sure that you have many pieces in your closet that you don't use anymore, and that you can use something. You can make something beautiful out of them.
Perfect. All right. Well, look, everybody, I think that you have all shared great pieces of advice. I hope that our audience has taken a lot away from our discussion around the future of fashion, and they feel armed and motivated with some things that they can do to help change the industry and help support an industry that they want to be a part of. So from my perspective, I think I was just so keen to hear all of your points of view and opinions. I also think that personal stylists have a massive role to play in helping shape the fashion industry, because stylists have traditionally worked on getting commission and encouraging people to continue to add to their wardrobes, as opposed to helping them extend the life of their wardrobes. And that's just because of the model that stylists have worked in traditionally. I also think that stylists have an opportunity to help people rethink their relationship with clothes and not see them as transactional items, but actually learn to love them and understand, like you've all suggested, where they came from, how to take care of them, how to maintain them, how to upcycle them, even if they don't want it to be a garment in future. It could be a cushion cover, you know, whatever it might be. I think we all have a role to play in ensuring everything that exists currently does not go to waste. And I think personal stylists can really help drive that message home when they're working with clients, and help showcase the brands that are doing innovative and kind and circular kind of activities within their brand, because I think that there's so many wonderful brands that are out there, and there's definitely a huge opportunity for more marketing for them. But it always comes back down to, you know, cost is always a challenge for small independent brands. So to anybody that is watching, please do check out all of the wonderful brands that are listed here at this event. If you get a few moments, head over to ethicalbranddirectory.com and check out our wonderful brands, and, you know, just share. If you find an amazing brand, tell a friend. If you get an amazing tip about how to look after your clothes, tell a friend. You know, it's all about sharing. I think community for me is, after COVID-19, a big driver for delivering on change, and us actually engaging with people more locally on our doorsteps as well, and seeing how we can push our positive message outside of the eco bubble and get this mainstream. So thank you all so much. You've all been absolutely wonderful. I believe that we're a couple minutes over, so hopefully I won't get in trouble. But